And we're live. We have an hour to do this. SE break, but done 600 hangouts. So here we go. Let's get cracking. So we're going to do these two functions, FE and NE, in that. Now, first of all, though, we'll spend a few minutes on this. I know somebody else who's creative apart from Sana. So this is Emily's artwork. And then that's what she was talking about, FE. Right, so that's her. She calls those just, she didn't even have names for them. There's some more artwork there. And look at the
wow
technique point of view. I've just been pinged, but I'm ignoring it. Now onto Sana's artwork. Both got websites for, so you've got emilywolf.com and you've got, oh, and who painted this?
Whoa.
And Elena is here, I believe, or she was here briefly, but she will come back. That stuff there. So Enrique, if you want to pay Emily, she'll do you a, and she'll probably, if you want to do a proper commission, she'll do you one like this, proper photorealism. Right, so various things. Let's get cracking. Vulnerable position, Control NE. Overall, this is where it is in the INTJ. Simplified Model G. Use this in the Dario Nardi Hangouts. Elena is here. I.L.I resembler, but also an I.I resembler to a lesser extent. So there we go. People know that. Hangout number 1, NITI. Number 2, SIFI. Number 3, TESE. Weakest block, info on said block. Now, is my screen selected? Yes. So this is a little bit tricky, but I'll get into this later on if we have time. The idea here is it's just really weak, and there's how the creative function is involved in making it weak is a little bit tricky. So I'll just give the example of my type, where maybe it's the NI isn't as sophisticated as in, well, it definitely isn't as sophisticated as in the NI DOMs, but maybe the way our NI is, it makes us too hesitant to act in the moment. So that maybe represses it, but I don't know how in the case of I.L.I that the creative TI would repress the TE, unless it's a case of, usually when INTJs are making an FE faux pas, they might say to someone, that's stupid, that doesn't make sense, why have you done that? Like poking holes with people. So there might be some involvement there of the creative TI, but that's just a theory. So we're going to do the break. We'll explain the break, do the break bullet points, and then we'll get back to the control. So together, this is the inflation avoidance block, and you can all read the stuff that's there on screen and the wonderful metaphor that Victor used that Dario and I very much approve of, because he understands what inflation actually is. Right there. So over to you, Enrique. What do you think of those words in the FE box on the left there? Are they giving you cold chills?
Yeah, especially charisma. That one, yeah, drama. Oh God, yeah, no. Togetherness. Oh man, yeah.
So I'll ask Alina. What do you think of those words in on the left?
What kind of feedback do you expect?
Well, I mean, it's like we've just got Enrique here. He doesn't like these things. I'm just wondering how you respond to these things, these words are associated with extroverted feeling. And
I don't know, slight frustration, I guess.
And also, we've got Sana here as somebody who resembles best fit type II. And so the way what do you think of those words, Sana? Are they representative of FE for you?
I mean, sort of. I wouldn't go overboard with them, but I also don't have the extreme reaction.
Yeah, it just seems like an extreme word to describe it. It's not like it's a manifestation of a fee.
Right. Do you think it might be a little bit too alpha?
Well, it's very extreme. It's like
Right.
I don't know if he leads them think in those terms, but I usually don't. They will make an appearance here and there, like I maybe feel passion about something, but it's not like a constant presence in my life. I suppose passion, for example, would be more positive than negative overall, but it also depends on how you define it.
Yeah, and I'll just remind the audience, Sana, 5 wing, no, not 4 wing 5, 4 wing 5. So we already had a discussion about the 5 wing 4 with Bradley and Elena. But yeah, the four in the so now this is how I see Effie break in this character of Avon in Blake 7. So INTJ. As you can see there, he's just pointing out the facts. And because he points out the facts, people just think, you're never involved, are you, Avon? You ever cared for anyone except yourself? I've never understood why it should be necessary to become irrational in order to prove that you care, or indeed, why it should be necessary to prove it at all.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So, Elena, I mean, is that your... I'm just wondering how you differ from that, whether it's slightly different for you.
Yeah, I guess it is.
Right, so you relate to that then, okay. That's interesting.
No, that's what I'm saying.
Ah, right.
I don't find myself particularly relating to that.
Okay. I wonder if 5 wing 4, the way you resemble, might push I.L.I into more of a beneficiary shift where they act a little bit more like INFP, like E.I.I. But that's something we'll have to go over in future when we do more hangouts with you, because because of the limited amount of time, we're now going to go to the FE bullet points. I'll make them a little bit bigger, and then we'll go back to NE once we've done this. There's just a little bit on how Victor's defining the FE and the FI. It's not particularly basically positive and negative emotions, pretty much. And the stronger it is, the more both sides of it are used. So then we can go each person one at a time. So Bradley, what do you think of number 1? And then Elena can say what she thinks of number 1, how she differs from it.
Allies are prone to criticize, nag, which often ruins the atmosphere and or their own mood. Yeah, I can be pretty critical, especially when something is done in an inefficient manner, or I feel, say, a lot of unnecessary energy is being spent or wasted. I might point that out. I don't know if I nag, but I would agree with criticize. Sure.
I'd probably be, I don't know, I can't focus on the negative side, but I usually control what I say. I understand that, you know, my words have impact, and I try to minimize that impact. Like if it's gonna ruin, like if it's gonna make a different person do something beneficial, then I would try to approach them properly so they would react in an expected way. So, but yeah, sometimes I just pinpoint the negative sides more, but it's more of an internal process.
Something similar happened here with Farah, where we did a hangout with Victor, and she identified as SLI, and we went over the FE break with her. it was almost as if internally she was having all of the FE break things, but because she identifies as Enneagram Type 9, she wasn't sort of like externally manifesting it because she didn't want to disturb the atmosphere around her. So internally was the FE break things. So this can show how Enneagram can show how the type is expressed. So that's the running theme of today, the influence of Enneagram and Jungian type on each other.
So how would it manifest? Like, let's say Enneagram is, as far as I understand, something that comes and goes in a sense that you can change. It's more flexible compared to your type. So what if I definitely feel like the harmonizing force and like I care about how I come across and what people think, but at the same time I'm trying to stay away from that and deviate from that, and it annoys me.
Yeah.
So
we all have paradoxes.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is, like, you have a certain part of the brain, and probably the mirroring part of the brain would be responsible for that FE side, just, understanding what a different person is going through or what the group is going through. But it would be the same thing, the same part of the brain for be you a harmonizing logical person or a feeler with a more of a logical side, like be it Enneagram. So I guess my question is it more stable in a sense that this part of the brain fires frequently for you, or how would it be different for two types manifesting the same thing in this way?
I would say that for Victor, part of his theory is that the NI and SI DOMs are quite moody, and so that's part of his foundation for I.L.I, that it's a moody type.
I don't know about SI DOMs. I wouldn't find them moody compared to myself.
Yeah, it's tricky because both of those, because the SI DOMs are also, apart from being moody, they're also other focused. So maybe the other people don't see it as much. So for instance, say that Enneagram Type 2, SI DOM, it's going to be somewhat hidden. But this is lovely nuance and stuff, but I'm on the time by Enrique. We have to get this within. This is one of these fascinating discussions that we can go over in future about the because, and we will get into this, Elena, because like when you and Jonathan have your tri-type and your instinctual stacking, all of these nuances will come into play. So Enrique, what do you think of number 2?
Poor masters of their emotions may fluctuate randomly from calm to melancholy to aggressive discontent. Well, poor masters of their emotions. I have to agree with this. Yeah, unfortunately. I often don't understand my emotions. They're very blurry to me. I don't know about the fluctuating randomly part. I mean, it's certainly possible. I think more often than not, I don't really understand what's happening in that part of my brain, so it's hard to agree or disagree with that statement.
Elena, is that different for you?
No, I find it pretty accurate. Like it really deviates, and but for women, it's also more of an emotional hormonal thing going on.
Yep.
So
I agree with
sometimes
that.
I wonder, like, is that maybe hormonal, or Am I really onto something here?
Yeah, I think there are patterns there with. So Sana, as somebody who is like more confident in your categorization of I.I, does that relate to you as well?
No, no, I
Right.
pretty much always know what I'm feeling. It may take a moment to figure out how to articulate it, but I'm not gonna miss the feeling.
Right. Okay. So what about number 3, Enrique?
Facial expressions or intonation may be somewhat inadequate, which is most noticeable during public speaking occasions. Um, Inadequate. Yeah, I mean, if you try to read my face, it's not going to tell you anything.
Well, you think that, but actually it does, because, and this is why, I.L.Is think that they're poker faced, but you see, they're not as good as changing their mood. So their actual faces can actually reveal quite a bit of emotion, whereas they think they're not, but it's like in the little micro gestures, it actually comes through. Whereas those people, this is why, say somebody with stronger FE, they can actually show a different emotion on their face from what they're actually feeling. So I sort of half agree with that about the emotions on the face.
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is it may not be accurate 100% of the time. Like there's moments where I may be particularly feeling awesome, but I'm not really, you know. It's like it's like, yeah, I feel awesome. Like it's not. I'm not gonna be like, hey guys, I feel fucking great. No, like that
That's what I mean.
doesn't happen. Yeah.
There's also a thing in NLP called calibration, or basically where anybody is used to somebody. So somebody close to you is go, okay, Enrique is happy. I know when Enrique is happy because they pick up all the little signs. So, but yeah, compared to the people that are very demonstrative with their emotions, then it just depends on the subtleties.
Yeah.
What do you think of number 3, Elena?
Well, sometimes I can hide my emotions pretty well, but it's a very big effort, and it has to be worth it. It just sometimes I don't like people seeing when I have very intense emotions. I don't like others seeing that, so I try really hard to hide that.
Yeah.
And yeah, sometimes I cringe and I just can hide it, especially if it's something like going on. I don't know. So if you dump randomly out of nowhere, just being very dramatic, like I caught myself having a very cringy expression, and I'm obviously not liking that.
Yes, just for the audience, Elena identifies as 5-wing 4, and I think tri-type may be 549. Right, so number 4, Enrique, what do you think about?
Finding internal balance is an important problem. Oh yeah, it's a problem for them. Therefore, once they achieve a calm and relaxed state, I.L.Is really dislike being disturbed. I 100% agree with that. It is a problem to find internal balance because sometimes I don't know how I feel about things. Like, I don't know, say I'm in a restaurant and, oh, what do you feel like eating? I feel like eating this, I think. So I go and I eat, and then maybe like, I don't know, maybe tomorrow or the next day, I'll be like, you know what? I didn't really feel like eating that. Why did I eat that crap? So yeah, internal balance is difficult, but it is important to attain it.
Ah, interesting. That's like the role function where it's like people see that they're weak at it, but they grudgingly realize that they want to get better at it. Whereas with the break function, it's like, oh, that's rubbish. I don't want to get better at that. Must I? So, Elena, what about, what is it, number 4? What about that for you?
Yeah, I definitely feel that some kind of internal balance is important. Especially I'm trying, always chasing some sort of feeling to be productive, to actually get things done, to find motivation. So I try to balance all the little things and maybe, I don't know, take different kind of chemicals just to achieve that. So I can't really achieve something when I don't have that in me.
Did you just say that you take certain chemicals? I don't know if I've had a case of any hearing.
It's by chemicals, I don't mean like drugs or something. So just either all kinds of things, like from herbs to different substances that just impact how you feel.
So,
by, I don't know, vitamins, including vitamins. Different
yeah. Yes, right. And I think you're in the chat. I think you're in our nutrition chat. I could add you in the future. So, Sana, for comparison, what do you think about number 4?
I think my internal balance is sort of independent of my emotions. I probably have enough of mastery over them to, I mean, I'm often processing emotions, but it's not like I can be processing something pretty heavy and still have internal balance.
Right. So
not always. Sometimes, I mean, I'm not saying I'm always in balance. That's definitely not true. They do seem to be somewhat independent to some degree.
So, Enrique, what do you think of number 5?
An unpleasant incident gets stuck in their mind, and they can't calm down as their thoughts go back to it. Yeah, that's true. It's can't calm down as their thoughts go back to it involuntarily.
Yeah, this is a dynamic thing where Victor thinks that the static types can change their mood easier.
Yeah, it's
What I mean in terms of, like, I'll just say a bit where, so for example, he compared ESTP and ESTJ, and he thinks that it takes ESTJ a lot longer to calm down than ESTP, because ESTP is like static, they're angry for a while, boom, and it's off. State is whereas like it just stays and swirls around. Also, I think ESTJ is a vortex synergetic type. No, it's not. That's wrong.
That's ENTJ.
Yeah, that's right.
Oh.
Okay, go on then, Laura.
Okay, say something. Well, so you said like something about static types change their mood easier.
Oh yeah, well, what I meant by, I didn't mean, what I sort of meant was it sort of like transitions to it. But
okay.
But Laura, I'll give you some context for this hangout, Laura. We're up against the time limit. So,
okay.
So if you continue what you're saying there, Brad, Enrique, about number 5, then we can get to what Alina thinks about.
Yeah, I definitely agree with the unpleasant incidents being stuck in the mind. And it is difficult for me to calm down once I feel worked up. But it's also difficult for me to get worked up. Yeah, I guess I agree with it. Mm-hmm.
What do you think of 5, Elena?
Yeah, but I'd say I'm more unbalanced. Like, it's relatively easy. Well, for certain people, it's not for everybody to deviate me from normal. And yeah, it takes a while to get back to the balanced state.
Well, I think 5. I mean, I don't categorize myself as I.L.I, but 5 sticks with me as well. Now we can ask some people who are not. So Laura, does number 5 stick with you as well?
Oh, number 5. Hold on, I gotta bring it up here. Oh, yeah, very much. And that's why I have a really hard time, like, letting go sometimes, and I will dwell on things. And that's kind of where I wanted to get at when you said, like, static types can switch easier, because I'm an LII, which is a static type, but I find I don't switch quickly and easily. Like I can stay in a state for a long time. Like somebody is angry or rude at me. I mean, sometimes it takes me like a couple of hours before I can reach my equilibrium again.
I think
I'm kind of all tensed up about it, and
I think that thing about
where somebody else, like in a minute or two, they've put it aside. They're back to their normal selves. And
yeah, I mean, I think we mostly see it with the STP where they can switch it. So, Sana, for comparison, what do you think of number 5?
Oh yeah, it happens a lot.
Right. Yeah, so basically number 5 is one of these things that a lot of humans have outside of I.L.I, so it's not particularly typical or exclusive to I.L.I.
Maybe it's because I'm HSP too.
Yes, that's the thing. Highly sensitive person like myself. So now we can go, because this is me being disciplined. So now we've got the control function. So, okay. So what it's got there, nice little bit of theory there that, and frequently what Victor has in these profiles is he will have the type talk about a lot of those things. So, for example, with mine and Laura's type, LII, TINX, there's this thing where we know all the business logic stuff, but we can't be bothered to do it. But if we tell our Jules about that, Elena Ames might say, "That's a good idea, Laura. I'll do it." And so it's like, you could say it's like coaching the role function of your Jewel. And I wonder if you've ever had any interactions like that with Elena, where it's like you've come up with ideas and then she's gone, "Right, I'll do it." And so that would be an example of that with the control.
Yeah, sometimes. But I think it's because those ideas are related to my strong functions, and she's weaker in those functions.
Right.
And she trusts me on those. So I think those ideas were mostly like TINE stuff, like
right.
Like when we were doing a presentation together, like how should we present this, or I think we should mention this. And
so just like the launcher function, there's a lot of information for this. So the type thinks about it a lot. And this is one of the so that's a direct quote from Victor. The actions for which the person is closely monitoring, it is very sensitive about it. The type thinks a lot. That's a little bit at odds with this sort of mental vital ring distinction in Model A. We'll go into that in future because we've not got enough time for. And then we've got my thing down there in purple. A person cannot be a sociotype. They can only resemble one. Then we're going to get to things on NE. So I can ask you all: do you think those words are right for NE, or a little bit alpha bias, or ingenuity is not exclusive to NE, that kind of thing? Right.
well, it's like I can relate well to the NE side, with the FE, it's kind of 50-50 because, like, I don't like a lot of drama, for example. Maybe that's more beta FE.
Yeah.
And so some of it seems like that top part of that symbol is kind of almost more beta NE, and then the bottom part is more alpha.
Sorry, it just disappeared there. Laura, I wonder, because Enrique's got to go in about 45 or 40 minutes at the moment, so that's why I'm going through things at a bit of a cracking pace. So basically, these are the NE things. Let's go to the NE bullet points. So the way Victor, right, he's got a little bit of a nuance here with the NE plus and NE minus. There's a slightly different spin on it.
NE plus for sure.
Right. In your mind, but do you do it in action? That is the crux of the control function, and we'll see that in the bullet points in a moment. So basically, NE plus is how ENTP operates, and NE minus is how ENFP operates. So, oh, I forgot a little thing. So the little thing for the SHSFE short definition: a function that shapes demonstrative and expressive behavior. NE manifests in taking chances and define convention. Now that's in Western typology, that's got a little bit of SE in it, taking chances and defying convention. But we won't get into that. So Enrique, what do you think? And Enrique, you can say what you think of one, and then Elena can say, and sort of like ping pong between the back of you on each, between two of you on each one. So Enrique, what do you think of number one?
Right, I.L.Is can see instantly what makes a person tick, what the person is about, and therefore in which ways the person is likely to behave. I would say that makes a lot of sense for me, because often when I am observing someone or a group of people or whatever, it's I'm not necessarily paying too much attention to their emotional state, but what I am looking at is basically input and output. So if in a certain situation the certain person responds in this manner, and let's say that happens 80% of the time, then that's predictable, and I will expect that same response in that same situation for that specific person.
That's very good what you said there, because it also makes, because when I think about that phrase, what makes a person tick, whereas for somebody like Sana, they will see how somebody ticks on a completely different level. You're thinking about how the person ticks on a TE level. If I do this, they know that.
Yeah.
Whereas what would that be like for you, Sana? A completely different process?
I think I focus on people's motivations, which has a lot to do with their issues and their psychological makeup.
Yeah. That when I saw that made me think of about, well, that's almost like a superpower for I.L.I, and it doesn't match up with them having certain problems with like reading people. And it's like that sort of made me think, well, doesn't that sort of negate it? Because we know that they can get into issues with not being able to read things in other people. But the way Enrique described it, it's they can see how somebody ticks, but it's looking at different things. It's not looking at somebody's inner state. It's maybe looking at their inner processes, how the person is thinking. So it's like, so you'll probably have an idea, Enrique, okay, I know how this person is thinking, but maybe not as much what they're feeling.
Yeah, pretty much. Like what they're thinking can be, you know, if you observe them long enough, you can kind of get a good sense. But what they're feeling, no.
Yeah, you don't even know what you're feeling yourself. As you said when we did the FE, it keeps changing.
No, I don't even bother to go there.
Right then.
Totally reversed for me. I have no trouble with that.
So, Elena, what is that like for you, number one?
I'd say I see what other person is feeling. I'd say I try to see what their motivation is and what makes them tick it's true. Like, I always try to find it's something personal, not just what they think.
Right.
Well, I probably would just focus on what they think if I just have a task that has to be done in front of me, and then it's my focus.
Right.
Other than that, I try to just kind of take a step back and observe.
Dario once phrased things very well, and I went around the houses, and then Dario said that yes, the people that are interested in typology might be atypical of their type. So, for example, INTPs and INTJs that are interested in typology are probably more interested in psychology than the average person of their type, because all of this typology is about what's trying to work out what's going on inside somebody's head. So there might be more focused on somebody's inner state than people who don't know about typology. And of course, Enrique and I.L.I, they're thinking about these things through the lens of typology, and so you might end up being different from the profile. Right. What do you think of number two, Enrique?
Know intuitively what suggestions and ideas are promising and which are not. Promising. Maybe I wouldn't say no, but I think of in terms of probability. So, like, if an idea is presented to me, I'll be able to work out like what the probability of success is. I'll be able to estimate the probability of success of that idea actually working. And if it's low, then obviously I will not entertain it. Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Right. What about that one for you, Elena, number two?
Yeah, I'd say so, but again, it has to relate to the fields of my interests. In this case, I feel that something is promising, but something has a potential. I'd say that's true. I can say this about anything. Like, there are fields outside of my interest which I can hear about, and I might be curious how that would turn out, but then I can't predict because I don't really have data points to draw across.
I think for the I.L.I critic stroke mastermind, where they have such a high bar, it has to tick so many boxes for it to be like, if an I.L.I resembler thinks it's a good idea, it's probably a good idea. They're tough judges. And they're looking for where things can go wrong. So they're not going to be blind to any failings in it. So, and their only problem is they might go the other way, where they might miss something out that actually was promising, but they thought was a little bit too risky. And that would be a bit of an example of, and we'll get to that a bit later on in these bullet points, where they can see it, they can recognize it, but they don't want to act on it because it goes against the program of, well, not so much the lead function, but you know what I mean, the overall attitude of NI and TE, where it's like, this is the vision, this is the long-term plan, and this is how I'm getting to it. Yes, that seems promising, but, over to you, ENTP or ENTJ, to do that. Number three. Enrique.
likes to follow the cutting edge of whatever they are interested in, enthusiastically share and discuss the new information. Cutting edge. Yeah, I like to be updated. I like all my stuff to be updated. And if I'm enthusiastically, yeah, this word, I don't like it. I suppose I would share. Yeah, it is nice to share information. Someone that's interested, obviously. But I'm not so sure if I do it in an enthusiastic manner. I may or may not. I don't have this data.
All right. What about number 3 for you, Alina?
Yeah, I usually get very excited about things I'm interested in, but usually it's overwhelming for people around me because they usually don't share my interests. So it gets to be too much, like me just passing on information. They have no idea what to do with it.
So, if you don't mind me asking, what sort of things are you interested in?
What am I interested in? Well, let's say nutrition or something related to physiology and I don't know, out and about in this range of topics.
Right. Enrique, what about number 4?
A good expert. Yes. Point out the essence of an issue. Double yes.
Yeah, and if people want to know more about that, see the first hangout on the social mission block that was all about Enrique, like finding errors in other people's code, things like that. What about for you, Alina, number 4?
Yeah, I find it true.
Okay, so number 5, Enrique.
I support people around them in developing their full potential. Hold on. I want to say something about number 4, if that's okay.
Yep, that's fine.
Yeah, here's why I think I.L.Is can be good experts. It's because we actually go through, well, speaking for myself, I have no problem reading all of the documentation, properly educating myself on the issue in order to, or the topic. Whereas I find that others can be quite lazy in this regard. You know, so I mean, I don't know if it's the same for Elena, but yeah, is it the same for you?
We're talking about still point 4, right?
Yes.
It depends. Like I find myself that I have narrow interests, and within them I could be a good expert, and I always find there's no limit to what you could keep going about learning. Whereas others are just like to settle on being an expert. Like they can see that they can impress people early on, even with little data, and I find that they don't advance too much as long as their knowledge is enough to serve that role.
Yeah.
I don't really think about that, but some topics, like if I'm not interested, I wouldn't be a good expert. But that annoys me. Just to be around and see someone rely on me as being an expert when I'm actually not. I don't like that.
In terms of
Yeah.
mastery, Haley, she will read all of the documentation, all of the research on hypertrophy, and so she gets very annoyed by these, like say, National Academy of Sports Medicine, where their theory is from 15 and 10 years ago, and in her mind that's old ass studies, and people are not up to date with the. And so she does so much. She probably puts as much effort into the research as she does to actually working out.
As you know, that's doing it properly.
Yeah. And not only does the I.L.I resembling person want to do it properly, they have lack of respect for those that don't.
Yeah. Yeah, this is true.
Yeah. So number 5.
All right, number 5. I.L.I support people around them in developing their full potential. However, they may lack motivation, energy, or self-confidence to do it for themselves.
Well, I find it very true about myself.
Damn it. Yeah.
Well, this is the thing where if you were doing this stuff, then you would be like an NE Dom. But NI Dom, it's like inside the mind and the NI thing, and then when you do expend your energy, you do it very well with the TE. And then there's a little thing which is a bit of a relief from that, where you do the SE stuff, but that's pretty much most of the time for I.L.I. So what is? Do you just think that all of these ideas that just get put on the back burner, just get pushed aside as not important? How do you view them?
It's just serves NI really, and it's more like you're aware of all the different ideas, but you focus on the best one. At least that's what I experience.
So one thing I just thought of now is a lot of these ideas, if they are extroverted in nature, it's about, oh, do this, do that. Well, that contradicts the overall introverted attitude. And plus, the way the I.L.I interacts in the world, well, it's through TE and SE. When they extrovert, it's either in those two ways, either getting stuff done or enjoying themselves doing the handball thing or whatever is their thing for the SE. I mean, it can be somebody like Brian May. I think Brian may be an I.L.I resembling, well, he's a very good guitarist and he did a PhD in astrophysics. And actually, he went back to it recently in the last 10 years because nobody had done a PhD on a similar subject. So cool. Brian May might be INTJ. So I think we've talked about this before, Enrique, where so all these ideas are they going to be run through the TE filter?
Yes, the TE and the TI filter for sure. And whatever most of the ideas are going to fail quite quickly. The ones that make it through are the ones that you end up focusing on or improving, and typically it's either one or two. So it's a very laser focused mindset.
Whereas for the NPs, it's about how interesting the idea is. It's about how much we're taken with the idea. So especially ENFP, if they're taken with the idea and the way they feel about it, they can be really into it in that moment. And for the ENFPs, then it's about how well they develop that TE. They develop that tertiary TE, they can go into ENTJ mode. So you can get that with ENFPs. You can get, I know three ENFPs with strong TE. What have we got here? What are you? I think I've not. Elena, did I ask you about number 5? I don't think I did.
Yeah. Yeah, I said I find it very true.
For comparison, Sana, what do you think of number 5?
I'd like to know what kind of topics we're talking about. Like what's full potential in what area?
I think it's
Whatever
just
you're
general
discussing,
sense.
like if you, I don't know, at work or whatever you interact with them, do you see what they could be, what their kind of strong sides, which you wanted to advise them to develop further or focus on?
I mean, yeah, I do see that. I think when it comes to myself, I will also focus on what I consider the most important. So I'm not going to be spread thin about myself either. But on the other hand, I will be very focused on whatever I'm focused on. So if it falls into this area, then it does. So depends.
Now, this one here, number 6, this is pretty much how when explaining NE control in NI DOMs, this is pretty much the thing that is most memorable to me, number 6, where it's like they have all the info for it, but they have the info it based on the things of what's inputted, if that's a word. They will see the connections. The difference being that NPs are probably more likely to be interested in more things. Therefore, they've got a wider knowledge base, not as deep, but a wider knowledge base to make connections between different fields. And this is something I made in a hangout a while ago, a few days ago. Well, within the last month, where the NJs will make connections usually within their field because they have all the depth. So their NE is probably less noticeable than, say, in the NPs, where they're making connections between fields far removed from one another. So frequently Victor will write something like this, what you see in physics. And so it's like this. And so the NJs might look at the NPs doing that. It's like, well, isn't that just an excuse to show off intellectually? Because it's like, why mention that? That's not relevant. You're only mentioning it to brag that you know about that other field. So that's I can see how that impression can be given off. So, because I think it was with Lena actually we were discussing about noticing the patterns, and it's more probably the patterns within the field for the NI ones. So it's going to be a different kind of NE as well, because different information is being fed in. There's a different knowledge base to find connections between. So, did I actually ask you about 6? No, I just rambled on about it. I'll ask you about 6, Enrique.
I.L.Is may advise others about promising ideas or fields while not willing to take the risk themselves. I'm trying to think of examples of this. May advise others about promising ideas.
If it's something I find promising, then I wouldn't. It's not like I would give away my opportunity to someone else.
Yeah.
And
Well, I guess if it's unrelated to what I do or my field, but say I just so happen to research the topic and someone else is interested in that topic, then I'll probably mention it like, hey, you know, I read this. You should try this. I mean, I wouldn't do it because that's not my area, but I might recommend it.
This is one of the differences between ENTJ and INTJ, where the ENTJ, they've sort of got this and it's feeding it. It's not so much something that's ignored, it's really feeding the TE. And so they're more likely to, and also because of the pace of life of ENTJs, they'll like do a project, work themselves to death, then switch to another one. So it's like they're not as knocked back by failure. The question then becomes, in Kersey, they're still strategic and think ahead. But the question then is, well, how much do they think ahead? So that's a question of, say, somebody like Damon Gray, as he types one way. In MBTI, he types as ENTJ. And in Socionics, he types as I.L.I. But the question then is, I would ask is, okay, how is looking at the difference between tactical and strategic, and then trying to get a firmer handle on, because ENTJ is not as strategic as INTJ. INTJ is the most strategic type in terms of planning things out, but ENTJ is still going to plan things out, but maybe just enough because they're very expedient. They're not quite as expedient as the STP is, but they're strategic and expedient, ENTJs. So, Elena, did you comment on number 6?
Let's see. Well, I think it touches 2 different points. It touches weak C and just seeing potential, which are previous points. It's
Yeah.
let's say if that's something I want to pursue, but just lack confidence in, then I wouldn't pitch it to others. I would just motivate myself to do it. But if it's not something that I'm likely going to pursue, then yeah, I would give out information or advice easily.
Right. Okay. That is gone through that. So this is the Model G as a whole. Well, that's the explanation as a whole. So I'm just going to put this like this, so in case the audience want to pause it. All right. If you want to pause that. And then this is the next bit. And then we won't need to do the other one because we've looked at that. And so that's self-affirmation block. Right. And then this is the actual Model G. That graphic down there to the left is the Dario Nardi video. Right, so this is the social mission. Pause. And that's the social adaptation. It's lower energy for that. This is self-affirmation, which is when it's sort of conditional, this sort of contextual in the right context for these two. And then we've just gone over those. I just like to show that because I find it funny. Now this is something about the break function, and this was a little discussion in a group, and I've edited out the surnames, but they're actually asking about INTJ and NE and FE in this. So I made sure I got all the main bullet points through. Right, and then somebody mentions here, and then bring up I.L.I, NiTx. Because we've got the break FE here. And this particular Ash has been on this channel before.
That's interesting. Come and go too quickly.
That's the thing you mentioned before about the emotions and the feelings and the quickly change them. Yeah. See, when people use a word like congruency in this context, it makes you think, well, what do they know about NLP? Right, okay. There's a little more stuff here on the break function. This was Elizabeth asking about the NI break, and so it's because what you think, oh, NI break, they don't plan. What's going on here? They do plan. And then Alina, this is Laura's friend in the Twin Cities, and so she answered how NI break works for her. Right. So it's whereas INTJ, I.L.I, strategic contender, is able to make those quick adjustments to the plan as things go wrong. They can quickly make the adjustments, whereas for the SJs, it's hard for them to adjust. Oh, here we go. And that's the thing that she made. If program NI can adjust in the middle of the plan because something does not make sense anymore, I am still doing it. And that's what Kersey wrote for the INTJ mastermind, the ability to change the plan. To think on their feet in terms of the have a flexible plan. Did you do that, Enrique? Do you like adapt your plans as they go along, less rigid than, say, comparing yourself to, say, an SJ? Because you might know some SJ co-workers or something where
Yeah,
differences in that area of planning.
I always account for, you know, there's every plan has a weakness or a dependency, and it's wise to account for things not going as planned. So yeah, I adapt quite well. Unless there's just a total, like, you know, which is seldom the case.
So what I've got here is I've just written something about, and so this explains the position between the tertiary and the break function opposing each other. So any tertiary types, ESFJ and ESTJ, tend to rigidly plan rather than have foresight. And so it's all that should be all or nothing. NI use NI tertiary types, TISX, FISX, tend to be in awe of NI and suppress NE because of that. This is tricky because then some things people can read that, take that in. TE tertiary types, so ESFP and ENFP. TI tertiary types, INTJ and INFJ and ISFJ. SE tertiary types, ENTJ and ENFJ. FE tertiary type. No, that's not the right one. I'm looking for FI tertiary types. There we go. Lack of emotional expressiveness, or what emotions they do show don't last long. You might miss it. Right.
It's true.
Yeah, and this is Kersey temperament here. There's going to be a difference in how it's shown. INTJ versus ISTJ. Because they're still going to want to fit in. Right. Right. This is something that Maria wrote. Some high-end Socionics, I think. Let's have a look. That's interesting. I'll have to think about that.
Can I just say something really quick?
Go on, Noah.
I know we're kind of the time limit here, but I thought ENFP was an emotivist type, not a constructivist type.
Well, where? No, I've just said that I'll mention that in the Hangout. I'll just send that that's the name of the Hangout, ENFP.
Oh, yeah, I'm looking at that thing you have displayed there. Like according to Ryan dichotomies, I thought ENFP was an emotivist.
Yeah, that was just because that was the name. That was just what the Hangout was on with Cal at the time.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Yeah.
Then some elaboration there.
Just that one.
Right. If the feeling function is in the control position, then the type is a feeling dominant. Yes. I.e. the feeling function of opposite vertness. Right. Right. Okay. If someone's control FE, they're FI dom. If they're control FI, they're FE dom. Right. Anyway, that's a little bit complicated. So, right. So, what do you think of that then, Enrique? If everyone's thinking the same, someone isn't thinking.
Yeah.
All right. So we can quickly go through this. I forgot about these. Here we go. How bad are they at these, Enrique? Go on. Let's go through it. This is.
Oh no. All right. Really discern other people's needs. Definitely not the second one. Definitely not the third one.
There's an interesting thing. You know that I'll just say something. It goes back to what that first bullet point in the control NE, where it said reads what makes people tick. But you might necessarily be concerned about what they need, though, which is more of a feeling thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, some of this, I think, is true for dominant extroverted feeling types, but an FE user that isn't dominant isn't going to relate to some of this stuff. Like, help people feel comfortable by engaging in hosting and caretaking. Well, that's very ESFJ. I mean, or easily communicate personally to all members of a group to feel unity. Again, you know, it helps if you're more extroverted, because introverts, it takes time for them to feel comfortable with other people.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, I mean, that is
because
part of
for me, I typically score low on FE as well when I do this, but yeah, there's definitely a lot of FE influence.
Well,
but
I mean, it's part of the theory. I mean, like, well, you would say that FE DOMs would only score high in this. Well, that's part of the point, because, like,
well, it is, yeah. But what I'm saying is,
yeah.
But whereas with some of the other functions, like, I can score fairly high on, even though it's not my dominant. I mean, like, I'll score fairly high on SI, I'll score fairly high on NE, and I'll also score high on FI. And I, you know, and I'm, you know, like INFPs. Well, if you're going like by just the 4-function model, they don't use FI. But I'm probably answering some of those FI questions as yes, but maybe it's in terms of another function. I mean, you know, I did that keys to cognition test online, and I get INFP on it, but I'm not an INFP. I mean,
well, that's fair enough, and we'll go over that in future. So,
yeah, that's something.
Right. So, Enrique, you're not, you know, are you ticking any of these, Enrique?
The first one in part 3, maybe. I'm gonna. Not to everybody though.
Right. I like how Dario puts development rather than because it's like just through practice, people can get better at these things. So, for instance, Laura, like you're going to get more, and certainly you can see this with INTPs as they get older, they get better in this area. But thanks, Sana did very good intuition of time by relating me as to how much time we got left. So let's see if we can pick up a pattern with Enrique between, if we go through each one of these, Enrique, in terms of, and if we have like a twin-headed approach of, yes, I think it, versus yes, I do it. So the intellectual part, and then there's the acting on it part as well, because that's the key difference with the control function.
Well, I'm definitely taking the first two.
Right.
For various. But wait a minute. The second one, that happens internally. That's in my mind. I don't offer. Like if I verbalize it, it's after the fact. It's after I figured out which one is the best one. For sure, I do number one, the first one. Okay, so part two. Engage life's magical moments.
Shaking your head.
What the hell what's a magical moment?
Well, I didn't. That's why I didn't tick it either.
All right, yeah, I don't entertain magical moments. Engage in brainstorming.
Yeah, what does he mean by that? I mean, people around the table, or does he mean writing it on a piece of paper?
Brainstorming. Yeah, again, that's in my mind. I don't typically enjoy brainstorming with other people. I find that it distracts me. I like to brainstorm with my whiteboard. And yeah, just me and my whiteboard. That's it.
How big is your whiteboard?
A decent size, yeah. A respectable size.
All right.
Let's see. Part 3, try new ideas.
I'll just say there's a key thing about how the action is changed. Try new ideas.
Yeah, try.
Acting on it.
I think I run them through in my mind. I try it in my mind. I don't actually try it in the real world. Yeah. So I don't know if I would tick that one. I guess not, because try implies that you actually do it.
Yes.
Enjoy playing with random interconnections and patterns. Enjoy.
That keyword.
Yeah, I don't enjoy that. I wouldn't say enjoy. Weave into the current dynamics of a situation aspects of others. Random seeming contexts. Weave into the current dynamics of a situation aspects of other random seeming.
So, for instance, a hangout. Current dynamics. Are you going to bring up subjects that are not really random? And then get sent a message afterwards saying, great hangout, but a little bit too uneven.
Oh, that's me.
Yeah, I guess, not sure about that last one. I guess not.
So this is from Dario Nardi's book, 8 Keys to Self-Leadership. So I'll ask Elena here, what do you think of these boxes here? Are you ticking a lot of these?
Yeah, I guess so. I would tick 1 and 2 of part 1.
Yep.
Number 3 is probably maybe just when I start with an idea, but again, I always try to limit myself to 1, just so I have progress and then move on to others. So, like I don't necessarily tell myself what's the one or the only correct way or something at the beginning. For part 2, I don't particularly think of life or anything as magical. It's more an ENFP approach. Engage in brainstorming and trust what emerges from it. Sometimes I like that. Like sometimes I like to be around. It's not something I do myself, but I like that any energy around me occasionally, because it just calms me down. So I like that. Engage in brainstorming as a play, something to distract me for my single-mindedness or something. For part 3, trying ideas and interactions because they're new and different. Yeah, sometimes, but I wouldn't exactly say it above me, but I'm curious about just trying something new all the time. Enjoy playing with random interconnections. Yes, for sure. Like that. Number 3, live into the current dynamics of situation aspects of others. When I'm seeing context, well, sometimes when I see a person as a certain unfolding pattern, there are some contradictions, then yeah, well, I guess I would say that I started wondering where they're coming from and what other forces influence them, which are just atypical.
That one at the bottom with the enjoy playing with random interconnections and patterns. Do you think you might be doing that for E5 reasons? What is the motivation for playing with those connections? Are you going towards a certain goal?
I don't know. It just that feeling it gives me. I guess it's interrelated with Enneagram. I just like that feeling of an insight and just boost dopamine in me. I don't know.
Right. Okay.
Something. I call it SE pleasure.
Yeah, because a lot of these things are common to just intuitives in general, because it's like a lot of these are abstractions because we got their ideas, interconnections, all various abstractions. It's whether they're acted on or not. The NJs will tend to filter these things, whereas the NPs, they get sort of like enchanted with them, and then they take a life on their own, and it's like they get led by them.
It depends where you are. Like if let's say for example you're in a place where you start learning something about a new topic, but you don't know a whole lot. So that potential of different interconnections and different directions it can take you is kind of appealing. But once you start exploring all of them, of course, you would narrow down as an NJ.
Right then, I think that's Socionics in general. This is what LSI, Kirill Kravchenko, thinks the purpose of Socionics is to improve these relations. So, Sana, what I think we've talked about this with you before. Did you tick most of these boxes?
First 3, yes, internally. 2, yes, internally. 3, not for the fun of it, only if it has potential. Playing with random interconnections and patterns, maybe internally. 3, yes, I do that, but by the time I do it, it's because I feel that there's potential, and I'm not doing it randomly.
Right. Right. So this is just Carl Jung writing about a type, and this is just basically, yes, certain people are very categorizable as a type. So, for instance, somebody like Enrique is quite easily to categorize as NiTx, whereas somebody like Laura You have to look at the differences, like a little bit of ISFJ in there, all but that's because of Enneagram Type 6, and to like get into it. So it's just harder to classify. That's from Jung. And then this is patterns. Carol and I like the term patterns. And in fact, Linda Bowen's now calls personality types personality patterns. All right then. And then that's just various playlists on the home screen there. And if you go to the A to Z of guests and different now the thing is here, you can click on this little arrow, but it doesn't give you everything. If you click on this line here, it will unfurl and release all the other playlists within it. This is a shelf of playlists. All right then. So that is the end of that. So then, hopefully everybody had a nice time. All right. That's the end of that then. Right then, so bye-bye folks. I will press stop now. Unless there's something where, oh, I wanted to say this thing, man. This fantastic thing. Does anybody have a fantastic thing to say? Nobody has something fantastic to add. Well, I certainly don't, so I'm going to press stop there.